Hello friends, welcome to another reel. Today we would be looking at Subhas Chandra Bose and what was his relation with the left. So Subhas Chandra Bose and the left. Let's look at this particular topic. So I am referring to this book, Bose, The Untold Story of an Inconvenient Nationalist by Chandra Ghosh, one of the founding members of Mission Netaji. So I'll be seeing some experts from his book, The Quagmire of Isms. That's the chapter. So I'm analyzing this. What was Subhash Chandra Bose's ideology, his ism, and what was his relation with the left is what we'll be looking at. So to summarize, to look at some of the high level aspects, Subhash Chandra Bose, he was a great freedom fighter. We all know he was a nationalist. He was part of the Indian National Congress. He had earlier very good relations with Jawaharlal Nehru, and then of course he had his quarrels with Gandhi, and which later, we know the story of Bose. But what was his ideology? Was he one who had a set ideology, who believed in a particular ism, is what we'll try to understand. So you can get an idea when he says the remarkable contribution of India. Subhash explained in the Indian Struggle. So the Indian Struggle is his autobiography, which he had not completed, which he was writing. And he says over that would be Samyavad, a doctrine of synthesis or equality. So he says Samyavad would be ideal, say, for India, which is a doctrine of synthesis or equality that would emerge out of the synthesis. Basically he was trying to understand the common traits between communism on one hand, and you can say nationalism on the other hand. So nationalism and communism is what he was trying to relate. So of course he wasn't advocating something like the fascistic things. He was more on the nationalist, a strong nationalist identity, and the context of communism, the communist ideology which had brought the Russian Revolution. So he says this. So he understands the contributions, like France's contribution in the 18th century to the ideas of liberty, equality, fraternity. He says the Marxist philosophy and Russia's contribution in the 20th century through its achievement in proletarian revolution, proletarian government, and proletarian culture, which is workers' state, a working class culture. So he said that he argued that the next remarkable contribution to the culture and civilization of the world India will have to make. So that's where he comes up. So he's very clear that one ism is not going to solve the problem of India. That's what he actually says this. So he wanted basically socialism. So he explains this basically even to Rajini Pame of Britain, and where he says, what I want is India wanted our national freedom, and having won it, we wanted to move in the direction of socialism. And he says this. So he wanted to move in the direction of socialism, but it would also be a combination with nationalism. So he then goes on to say the free Indian state, would have to be of a socialistic character. Then it follows that the political system must be able to carry out that economic program in the best possible way. So he was not necessarily, we can advocate, if he was for socialism, if he wanted to build socialism, he was not necessarily on the same lines as what Nehru was, to build it through a democratic manner, not through a complete democratic structure, because he clearly says you cannot have a so-called democratic system if that system has to put through economic reforms on a socialist basis. So he was for socialism, but he wasn't exactly for probably this exact kind of parliamentary democracy. He wanted a little bit more authority to actually implement the economic policies of socialism. But at the same time, his emphasis was on, see, he does say, I have no doubt in my mind, and this is one of his famous quotes, I have no doubt in my mind that our chief national problems relating to the eradication of poverty, illiteracy, and disease, and to scientific production and distribution can effectively be tackled only along socialistic lines. So he was very clear that only socialism however we achieve it, can solve India's major economic problems. So economically, it's pretty clear Bose was a socialist. Okay, but as I said, he differed from, say, Nehru or the other socialists in that he wanted a more philosophical basis. He visualized India in a more cultural and civilizational, he didn't want this kind of religious atheism of the Soviet Union in India. He said that would not be even acceptable in India. And he says this kind of orthodox communist philosophy, it doesn't suit India's needs. That's what he says. So he was very clear. It had to be an amalgamation of nationalism based on India's cultural ethos and the economic policies of socialism. So I think it's pretty clear, and he clearly says he refused to stand with any particular ism at that point. He wanted something, whatever ism India chose for itself, as he said, it had to be molded in accordance with its traditions and had to answer well to the requirements of the present conditions. So we'll leave it there, friends. So Bose was a socialist. He wanted to build socialism, but his socialism was more rooted in Indian cultural civilizational ethos. Of course, with its secular credentials, he valued the Hindu-Muslim unity. He valued a common civilizational culture for both the Hindus and the Muslims. That's how he visualized, just like Jawaharlal Nehru. So this is, in brief, Bose's relation with the left and Bose's kind of ism, what he stood for. Thanks for watching.